Hi there, welcome to Bitcoin Wyckoff technical analysis session. And the question today is Bitcoin having the next wave of bigger price move coming? Let's dive into the chart and let find out. So here we're looking at the weekly chart of Bitcoin, and previously we already shared a couple of important things, like this question about whether it's the last point of supply coming, and then there's a little bit of rebound. It may not have finished yet, so it may end up doing something like this and then eventually come down to the actual actual test towards the 104k key level. So why do I say in the title that the next big swing is coming? So if we look at the Bollinger Band and Keltner squeeze, we can clearly see the purple lines are quickly consolidating towards the orange. So meaning if next week, so there's still 1 day to 21 hours left for this week's candle. If next week the price continues to consolidate along the center line of the channel, that narrow range trading would trigger these two purple lines to go even further towards the center. So that's when the squeeze will happen. Last time when the squeeze happened, we saw pretty big big swing of prices, like especially here. That's when the bigger leg up happened. This time, when the squeeze happened, it coincides with the Wyckoff stage, especially with the blue scenario where the upthrust after distribution is over. So the likelihood is it's going to come down to test the purple key level as well as the pink support level of the uptrend channel. So you see this pink box over here, that has been the upward channel for Bitcoin since March 2024, actually even earlier maybe. But then the key thing is, I've mentioned before, this tends to be a straight line, meaning the momentum was more or less the same between the buying climax and the upthrust during 2024 all the way to January this year. However, the upthrust after distribution, you see the peak start to deviate from this trend. It did not test the upper boundary of the trend box, the upward trend box. That's a very significant sign that you can consider that a fatigue scenario of buyers or like people foaming in, any name you can put them or tag them, like the bulls or So it doesn't matter how we call them. The key thing is the momentum has slowed down. And this uptrend I already mentioned, this blue box over here, the price has already broken through. Even this week, when the price tried to climb, it does not have the power to get to test the bottom edge of this box. So that's another signal that the rebound is getting weaker. Because if there are sufficient demand or confidence, this price up would have tested this, at least the wick would touch the bottom edge of this line. But this week, it hasn't done it, basically. So whether or not, is it really the bulls didn't do a good job, or is it the market sentiments that has already changed? That's a question where the answer will be quickly revealed when the squeeze, the force gathered by the squeeze eventually release. I was thinking, I believe I shared previous weeks, that may be a head and shoulder scenario for Bitcoin. It can still happen that it is kind of trading pretty narrow, and that's where the right shoulder happens. So by then, the squeeze would have gathered sufficient energy for a bigger price swing. Whether or not it's able to stay above these two support lines, or is it really finishing its distribution cycle, coming all the way to the sign of weakness? That means 74k. A lot of people would have doubt why Bitcoin can still go to that level. Don't forget where we climbed it from. During that time, a lot of macroeconomic situations has kind of been factored in. So there are some people hoping that the lowering of interest rates and printing of more money will trigger another wave of Bitcoin. While that may be true or that may happen, don't forget there are always the market. I don't want to use the word that starts with M. Let's say the whales or whoever, the compositor, the composite man, whatever terminology you use, they can still trigger a wave of news that shake the market out and then build up for another distribution before it climbs to another high, may it be 200k or 300k. That's totally possible. So don't eliminate the chance of Bitcoin coming back to somewhere around the yellow and green level, because that's not a 0% chance. That's still a high chance over there. Okay, so that's the big picture. And when we go to the daily chart, here, it's very busy chart, I know. Already shared a lot of times that because there are people in the community that like to see it in a more frequent time frame. That's why we have this, and so bear with the BC chart, especially if you're watching on a mobile phone. I'll try to enlarge it as much as possible so it'll be easier for you to see. So here we tag these sign of weakness, LPSYs, and here we had another one just a few days back. And now the price is trading underneath this resistance line, this dashed line. That's where the buying climax and second test of the daily time frame was back in May all the way to early July. So now that this supposed to be support line has been broken through and reclimbing to above it has been heavily rejected. So by means of heavily rejected is the candlestick yesterday. What it has shown is quite, it's a higher level of volume. If you look across these series of volume bars, this is one of the 7 highest since mid-August. So this long wick over here, is saying there are some people heavily selling Bitcoin when it reaches the point to around 113k. So that's not a positive sign, not a good news for the bulls, because if it really is going to rebound, that should have at least defended this support level, but it did not. It got pushed all the way down to where it is now. And then for Bollinger Band and Keltner Squeeze, similar to the weekly chart, these two are getting very close, and based on my own definition, it has entered the squeeze zone already. So if the price continue to try to go above the yellow dash support line and trade sideways, that squeeze, the force of the squeeze will only get higher and higher. And when that happens, and the price still kept being rejected at this level, it will eventually come down to test the purple key level. That's around 104k. So that's my view and assumption based on the recent price movements. So some people would argue that, okay, this line over here, let me draw a line and show you, hey, that's descending trend resistance. So previously multiple peaks from mid-August to late August, just basically August 28th. These three peaks has been following this, like being suppressed under this resistance line. And then now it seems the price has climbed above this downtrend, and well, while it may be true, and if I draw a box, according to candlestick patterns analysis, that is a bull flag, meaning it's a bullish sign and the price will eventually break outside of the box and shoot to the upside. That has already happened. That thing here, the September 2nd, September 3rd, has broken out of this bull flag already. So I shared a lot of times, when the textbook says is bullish, it doesn't mean it's going to shoot all the way back to where it started. It can also only be a mild bounce, just like what we are seeing now, and it can eventually develop a new downtrend. So don't always think it's going to go crazy. It can go weak and then come down as well. So those are, to simplify the scenarios, treat it as two options, A or B. So it can be option A, where it climbs further, or it can be option B, going down. Which option or which scenario happens depends on the other factors that we already talked about, the Wyckoff stages, as well as the volume, how the candlesticks looks like. So combining multiple factors, we can determine that the B scenario going downwards, the probability is higher than the one going upwards. So I hope I've explained clear enough what's happening over here when we're looking at the daily chart. So if it really happens that the squeeze or the swing is going head to the downside, eventually we'll see a sign of weakness at a level around or lower than the purple key level. That's where the June and basically both in June, those sign of weaknesses were at. So for those reasons that tell you the price isn't going to go back to 100K, don't forget we're just only 2 months or at most 3 months away from where the sign of weaknesses were. At those time, the institutions, big banks, they have already modeled all the scenarios that the Fed or whatever government is going to lower interest rates and keep printing money. That they have already modeled and factored in. They won't wait till the last moment or 3 months before that happens to model it. So this, if anybody says impossible, listen to it, but treat it with a grain of salt. That's what I want to say. I'm not saying there's no chance for Bitcoin to go further out, but maybe at a later time. This doesn't seem to be the moment where it's going to get crazy, unless really some people is going to push out some very crazy news, and all of a sudden some big countries say they are going to lower the interest rate by 1% or 0.5%. May not be strong enough in that case. So by then there will be crazy FOMO, like, oh, are all the other countries going to print money and lower the interest rates by 2 or 3%, even more? That's a very unlikely scenario. So be cautious when the swing finally happens, where Bitcoin will head to. But as you know always, when you listen to me,